In this tutorial we would learn the basics of Trisco colors and develop a typical wall cross-section for further analysis. The colors window displays color associated with blocks in the blocks window. Each color stands for a material or boundary condition depending on the color type. At the colors menu, you notice three options in the drop-down list: List All, List Defined and List Present. By default, the colors toolbar is under the List Present, meaning only colors defined under the blocks window are shown at the colors window. If we choose List All, the colors window updates by showing all 256 colors from the database, along with the colors assigned to the blocks in editable format. If it's in yellow, means we cannot edit it. If it's in white, it's editable. We can stretch the window if required, which makes it easier to explore the window. The color database contains a few colors which have predefined thermal properties as per ISO standards, and some colors don't have predefined properties, allowing us to customize or create our own materials. Lastly, List Defined is also similar to List All, but the only difference is that it only displays the colors with predefined thermal properties and doesn't display colors which have empty parameters. We now will modify the present model into a wall with 3 layers and a layer for external boundary and internal boundary. In the blocks window, for third block we redefine the extents, by changing the x limit from 0 to 3 and y limit from 2 to 3. We now add 2 more grids in y-axis. One before first grid and one after the last grid. We select the first cell and choose Add Before. Similarly, choose the last cell and choose to insert after. We now create additional blocks in those grids. We click on the last block and choose to insert after to create additional block below. Then define x-axis limits from 0 to 3, y-axis limit from 0 to 1. Then create another block below. Then define x-axis limits from 0 to 3, y-axis from 4 to 5. We have now all the layers required for wall stratigraphy. Next, we change the dimensions of the grid to make a realistic cross-section. We increase the z-axis grid height to 25. We have 3 grids in x-axis and we can increase any one of the grids to stretch the geometry in the x-axis. We choose the last grid and change it to 15. In our example, each y-axis grid represents each stratigraphy layer of wall cross-section. We change the dimension of the second grid to 3, third grid to 2 and fourth grid to 3. So, we have tried to create 2 layers of wall each 3 cm thick and insulation of 2 cm thick, surrounded by a layer of external boundary condition and a layer of internal boundary condition. We must update this idea of stratigraphy into the block window by defining appropriate material properties for the color. In block 1, we input color 136, which represents reinforced concrete. In block 2, color 151 for insulation. In block 3 again color 136 for reinforced concrete. In block 4 color 170 for exterior boundary condition. In block 5 color 174 for interior boundary condition. The thickness value for the boundary condition doesn't affect the calculation but is just a visual representation of the external and internal environment. We now will change the colors window back to List Present from the colors menu. At the colors window, the first column color represents the index number for the color which we defined at the blocks window. Type allows us to define if the corresponding color represents a material or a boundary condition. You can double-click to change from one type to another. We can see that we change from material to Equimat to BC Simple to BC Free S. If you have Radcon module, you will have few more types available such as BC Free, BC Sky, BC No Sky and Transmat. We shall learn about each of these in detail at the next video, which is part 2 of the colors tutorial. If you wish to edit the color properties, you can input your customized data into the cells which are in white. If the cells are in yellow means that they are locked to restrict any editing. Parameters are linked with the reference standard mentioned in the standard column. Hence the cells which define material properties are in yellow. You can double-click to change from one reference standard to another. If you choose NI Hill, you would be free from reference standards, hence you can customize and input all the parameters of boundary conditions. It's important to note that any change you make at the color window either by changing reference standards or input values is affected locally only for this project file. If you open a new project, these changes to the color's properties won't be reflected. You can also browse the material from reference standards and input that material to the current color. To do this, go to the Colors menu, at drop-down list, if you choose Load Material. Material Database opens up. Here under the database you can choose the reference standard, say. For example, EN ISO 10456. Now, you can select the categorized group if wanted to explore, say CN Concrete, and then you can choose the material from the list. Upon clicking OK, you can notice that properties are updated based on our selection from the material database. These changes are still locally made, which means the changes are made only for this project and would not be reflected if you open a new project. If you wish to change the default color database, which would reflect at future projects. From the File menu, open the color database. Trisco asks you if you wanted to save your current file, as Trisco closes your project before opening the colors database. You can see here an entire list of colors, allowing you to make changes. If you make changes here, this would be the data preceding all your projects in future, as this makes changes in the app data. The color database is stored in the file, colordatabase.trc, in the application data folder, which is loaded at every Trisco startup. You can also download the default color database as a document from the Physibel website under the knowledge base. If you search for color as a keyword, you can find a document A12 material and boundary conditions. It's advisable to download this and keep it handy while practicing. Here you can also see the location of the color database file in app data. If you wish to exchange a standard database within your team, you can communicate using this file at the location mentioned above. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.